Okay, guys, so this is the last part, and we will be done soon. That trans bodies often rely on hormone therapy, medical transitions, surgical technologies, political risk. Who controls access? Who defines legitimate bodies? Who decides what bodies are acceptable? The cyborg body becomes a political battleground. So we know this. Now we'll directly go to the this part. Yeah, just left with 4 slides and we will be done. Haraway offered the cyborg as a contemporary cultural metaphor in order to capture the ambivalent condition of the contemporary human beings whose bodies are open to forms of technological modifications and interventions. The metaphor invokes, on the one hand, the fantasies of science fiction where prostheses or drugs not only correct characters' deficiencies but also render them stronger, faster, smarter, and in general other than conventional humans. With her cyborg, Haraway seeks to maintain the tensions and possibilities of technological mediations that can be productive even at the political level. Human supremacy. It's a very fun part, dismantling the human animal binary. Okay. Okay. So humanism versus posthumanism, human animal question. Okay. Humanism's basic belief ki ওই যেমনি আমরা এখানে পড়লাম কান্তের আইডিয়া Descartes' idea. A core idea of humanism is that there is a clear, unbreakable gap between humans and animals. Cartesian dualism, where this comes from, the Rene Descartes tradition argued humans is equal to mind plus reason plus cognition. Animals just machines. Animals belong to the material world. Humans belong to the world of mind. To the world of mind. So animals had no true consciousness, only mechanical behavior. Eta the Rene Descartes tradition bolche. Science complicates this idea. Modern science challenges this strict division. Advances in genetics, genetic manipulation, biotechnology shows that the boundary between species is porous, not fixed. Cloning as a turning point. The cloning of Dolly the sheep in 1996 became a powerful symbol. It showed that life can be copied and altered. Natural boundaries are not absolute. Species are not as separate as humanism assumed. A major post-humanist lesson from cloning and genetic manipulation, post-humanists conclude nature does not set clear limits. Biological life exists on a continuum, not in rigid categories. Biological life exists on a continuum, not in rigid categories. So the idea of purely human or purely animal becomes unstable. The political question, which is very important, if humans are not naturally separate, post-humanists ask, does politics belong only to humans? This question opens the door to animal rights, environmental ethics, and non-human agency. Number 7th, animal rights in post-humanism. Okay, post-humanist thinkers now take animal rights very seriously as a philosophical issue, a social and political issue. Their academic work supports animal rights movements এবং environmental movements. যখন কোনো clear division নেই, so why shouldn't they have any rights? A central feature of humanism is its insistence on an unbridgeable gap between the human and the animal. The influential Cartesian tradition of dualism insisted that the essence of the human was cognition, reason, mind, cognition, and that animals were merely highly intricate animals, part of the material world over against the world of the mind. Advances in genetics and techniques of genetic manipulation seem to provide tangible evidence of the porous quality of barriers between species and thereby complicate the notion of species altogether. The fact that scientists could now clone even some mammals, the famous instance of Dolly the sheep born in 1996, has seemed emblematic of a number of boundary issues important to posthumanists. Boundary issues important to posthumanists.
ওই ব্যাগ থেকে মনে মোজা বের করছিলিস না
আমি কোনো ব্যাগই শুইনি। কোন ব্যাগ? জিম ব্যাগ? হ্যাঁ, সৈকত ব্যাগ করেছি। One of the lessons that they draw from cloning and other genetic manipulations is that it is no longer clear that nature set any boundaries on the continuous spectrum of the biological. It is no longer clear that nature set any boundaries on the continuous spectrum of the biological, but if humans are not set apart by nature, does even the category of the political belong exclusively to humans? Continuous spectrum of the biological. What is the meaning of continuous spectrum of the biological? Right. On the continuous spectrum of the biological. Right. Posthumanist writers of various backgrounds have come increasingly to treat animal rights as a serious philosophical and socio-political issues. Their work আমার মাথা ঘুরে গেছিল I don't know how. Posthumanist writers of various backgrounds have come increasingly to treat animal rights as a serious philosophical and socio-political issue. Their work represents the theoretical and academic counterpart of a growing. Popular animal rights and environmental movement. Okay. Just three slides and we are done. How does the theory of cybernetics reinforce feminist thoughts? Write in simple the definition of cybernetics. How humans, animals, and machines send information, respond, and adjust their actions.
Ready? I'm a king, but I fuck with my saint. They call me a bad man, that's a fucking good thing. Mama said swing.
Let's not divert. Are just tinte na duto. And we are done. Okay. How cybernetics supports feminist thought. Simplified. Cybernetics break the nature-cultural divide. It is the truth. Cybernetics দেখায় that culture and nature are interconnected, not opposites. So roles can no longer be called purely natural. If something is not natural, it can be changed, right, through culture. Why this matters for women? Very important. For centuries, women were told they are weak, emotional, not rational, meant only to be mothers and wives. This is their nature. If these roles are natural, they seem unchangeable. But cybernetics challenge this. Gender as a social construction. If the idea of the human itself is socially constructed and not natural, এই যতক্ষণ বললাম জোই bios cyborg এর concept গুলো is socially constructed and not natural, then men are socially constructed, women are socially constructed. Nothing about gender roles is fixed, natural or absolute. Point number 4, Haraway's call for a new feminism. Donna Haraway calls for a feminism that recognizes how technologies reshape bodies and identities. Donna Haraway calls for a feminism that recognizes how technology reshapes bodies and identities, rejects patriarchal binary thinking such as body, mind, matter, spirit, emotion, reason, natural, artificial, male, female, self, other, nature, culture. Role of technology. Technology helps blur boundaries, erase rigid identities, break fixed categories. Technology becomes a tool for feminist resistance, not oppression by default. Simple letter. So the theory of cybernetics erases major contradictions between nature and culture such that it is no longer possible to characterize a role as natural. For generations, women have been told that their nature makes them weak, submissive, over-emotional and incapable of abstract thought, and that it was in their nature only to be mothers and wives. If all these roles are natural, then they are unchangeable. Conversely, if the concept of the human is itself unnatural and is instead socially constructed, then both men and women are also social constructs and nothing about them is inherently natural or absolute. Haraway calls for a new feminism that takes into account the fundamental changes that technology brings to our bodies, to reject the binaries that represent epistemology of the patriarchy. Binaries such as body, psyche, matter, spirit, emotion, mind, natural, artificial, male, female, self, other, nature, culture. Technology is simply one of the means by which the boundaries between identities can be erased and are erased basically. We are in the second last slide, queer thought and posthumanism. Ding ding. Now dish, tish tish, tish tish, tish tish, karo tish tish, tish tish, karo tish tish. जब चांद निकल गई तैयार Okay, queer thought and posthumanism. Queer thought, just like technologies, just like the cybernetics, break binaries. Queer theory is a space where dualities, binaries are dismantled. Of course, such as male, female, natural, unnatural, normal, abnormal. This directly aligns with posthumanism, which also rejects fixed categories, a human and fixed essence, universal nature, eigulo. The trans body as a key example. The transsexual body is a technologically mediated body through hormone therapy, surgery, medicine. It challenges the idea of what is natural more strongly than almost anything else, showing that bodies are modifiable and constructible, not fixed, right? Number 3, queering gender and desire. Queer theory shows that gender and desire categories are socially and culturally made. Gender and desire categories are socially and culturally made. They are maintained to preserve power system like patriarchy. They are not natural or inevitable. Categories exist কারণ ওরা কন্ট্রোলটাকে সার্ভ করছে, যার হাতে কন্ট্রোল আছে। সো জেন্ডার অ্যান্ড ডিজায়ার ক্যাটাগরিজ আর সোশ্যালি অ্যান্ড কালচারালি মেড, দে আর মেনটেইনড টু প্রিজার্ভ পাওয়ার সিস্টেমস, they are not natural or inevitable. Categories exist because they serve control. ठीक है? Beyond lesbian, gay binaries, queer thought goes beyond lesbian or gay, beyond male or female, even beyond trans, inter or any other fixed gender labels. It asks for thinking outside all rigid gender systems. যে বাইরে এসে ভাবো না, ভাবো as part of nature, এরকম করে ভাবো। Queer thought goes beyond lesbian, gay, beyond male, female, beyond transgender and other fixed gender labels. Shared political roots of critical theories. Shared political roots of critical theories. Many critical movements emerged to resist oppressive power structures, including feminism, post-colonial studies, anti-racist studies, lesbian gay studies, animal rights, defability, that is disability studies. Okay, defability. All of these respond to difference being treated in rigid binary ways. Difference so rigid and binary hote pare na. What isomorphically defined difference means? Isomorphism, one-to-one matching that preserves binaries. Here it means society defines difference in strict pairs, like body hole tar against a mindy hobe. One side is valued, the other side is marginalized. Example, male, female, human, animal, able, disabled. These discourses arise to break these fixed pairings. কেন আমি মেলকে ফিমেলের সাথে করব, কেন করব, ঠিক আছে? So isomorphically defined difference, ঠিক আছে, one to one matching. Okay, we are left with just one slide and we are done. The queer is itself a site where dualism's binaries, so to speak, are dismantled. The transsexual body, for instance, is technologically recalibrated body which challenges the natural in the most pronounced manner imaginable. Queering gender and desire emphasizes the socially. Queering gender and desire. What gender and desire? When gender and desire are queered, it shows that categories like male, female or straight, gay are not natural or fixed but are created by society and culture and are kept in place to maintain power and control. When gender and desire are queered, it shows that categories like male, female or straight, gay are not natural or fixed but are created. Right. Queering gender and desire emphasizes the socially, culturally, and individually arbitrary nature of categories and their maintenance as key of systems of power. If queer goes both beyond the gendered binary of lesbian or gay, then we need a team which goes beyond systems of male, female, and even further trans, inter, or other gendered. Structural and post-structural repudiations of oppressive techniques of power have incarnated as structural and post-structural repudiations of oppressive techniques of power have incarnated as feminism, post-colonial or anti-racist studies, lesbian gay studies, animal rights and defability studies, among others. Each discourse emerges directly as a response to a difference defined isomorphically. Each discourse, a pairing এর against কেন হবে, racism, black and white কেন হবে, ঠিক আছে? And we are in the last slide. I am so happy because posthumanism was really dense. Really dense. I'm going to treat myself to some good food and have it. Yes, that is the goal. दुनिया जाए भाड़ में, मैं अपनी ठाट में. Rosie Braidotti in The Posthuman explains how posthumanism is deeply connected to contemporary capitalist society. Everyday posthuman reality, things like digital second lives, genetically modified food, AED में organic, etc. Advanced prosthetics, robotics, reproductive technologies like IVF are now normal parts of life. These technologies blur the boundary between human and non-human, showing that the humans is not purely natural. Of course, philosophical background, posthumanism grows from continental philosophy, especially feminism, difference theory, and anti-humanism. It is influenced by thinkers like Gilles Deleuze, Felix Guattari, Jean-Francois Lyotard, Michel Foucault. All of them reject fixed universal ideas of the human. Capitalism changes how humans are seen. In advanced global capitalism, people are not treated as unique individuals. They are treated as data, statistics, and profiles. Identity becomes prefabricated, marketed categories. The human subject becomes a consumer model. যেখান থেকে দেখে আর ও companies আসবে আর কি, not a free individual. Commodification of life, advanced capitalism profits from biotechnology like genes, bodies, reproduction দিয়ে, and profits from identity itself, lifestyle, personality, desire. Life is turned into a commodity. Very important, guys. So Rosie Braidotti, the posthumanism, offers both an introduction and major contribution to contemporary debates on posthuman. Digital second life, genetically modified food, and advanced prosthetics, robotics, and reproductive technologies are familiar facets of our globally linked and technologically mediated societies. This has blurred the traditional distinction between the human and its others. Exposing the non-naturalistic structure of the human, right? The post-human comes more as a symptom of continental philosophy, particularly for feminism, difference theory, and for humanism, the anti-transcendentalism of Deleuze, Guattari, Jean-Francois Lyotard, and Michel Foucault. The globalized consumerist structure of advanced capitalism already treats the consumer not as an individual subject but rather as a collection of statistics that relegate them into a specific prefabricated identity. Advanced capitalism effectively profits from the commodification of life itself. Both in the emerging fields, advanced capitalism Posthumanism comes more as a symptom of continental philosophy. What do you mean by that? We are done, guys. We are done with posthumanism. I am so happy. La 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 la. That relegate them into a prefabricated identity. What do you mean by this? You're just clearing some general doubts and we are done. If you go through all my videos of posthumanism, you will be done. Extra कुछ पढ़ने का जरूरत ही नहीं है, ठीक है? And we are done. Bye bye, guys.